Dr. Sarah Chen stared at her computer screen and felt her heart stop. The numbers made no sense. The gravitational readings showed something impossible approaching the solar system. Something massive. Something that should not exist. She grabbed her phone and called her supervisor. Her hands shook as she dialed. "Director Matthews, you need to see this right now." 20 minutes later, every telescope on Earth pointed toward the same spot in space. Scientists watched in silence as their instruments confirmed what Sarah had found. Something huge was coming. Not one object. Many objects. Thousands of them. The ships appeared 3 hours later. They did not arrive slowly. One moment the sky was normal. The next moment, reality seemed to tear open, and 1,000 alien vessels emerged from nothing. They were enormous. Each one dwarfed the largest aircraft carrier humanity had ever built. They spread across the sky above Earth like a dark curtain, blocking out entire sections of stars. People around the world looked up and saw their nightmare. The ships hung there, silent and waiting. No weapons fired. No communication came. Just silence and shadow. Sarah stood on the roof of her observatory and stared upward. Her life's work had been searching for signs of alien life. She had spent 20 years listening to the cosmos, hoping for a signal. Now the aliens were here, and she felt nothing but cold fear. The United Earth government went into emergency session. Military bases activated. Evacuation plans were prepared. Humanity held its breath and waited for whatever came next. The message arrived exactly 12 hours after the ships appeared. Every screen on Earth showed the same image. An alien stood before them. It looked almost humanoid, but wrong in subtle ways. Its skin had a blue-gray tone. Its eyes were too large. Its fingers had too many joints. "People of Earth," the alien said in perfect English. "I am Ambassador Thelnax of the Galactic Concordance. We have come to address your violations of galactic law." Sarah felt her stomach drop. Violations? What violations? Humanity had barely left its own solar system. Thelnax continued speaking. His voice was calm but firm. "For 3,000 of your years, the civilizations of this galaxy have gathered in regular meetings. We discuss trade. We resolve disputes. We maintain peace among 500 worlds. Every civilization receives invitations to these meetings through quantum-encoded transmissions. Earth has received over 40,000 such invitations." The alien's large eyes seemed to look directly through the camera. "You have ignored every single one. Not once in 3 millennia have you responded. Not once have you attended. By the laws of the Concordance, this silence is considered an act of contempt. Contempt that borders on hostility." Sarah's mind raced. Quantum-encoded transmissions? Humanity had only just begun to understand quantum communication. They had never received any alien messages. They had never known anyone was calling. "According to the doctrine of silent contempt," Thelnax said, "a civilization that refuses all contact for more than 1,000 years is presumed to be either hostile or dangerous. You have remained silent for 3 times that period. The Concordance has sent this fleet to determine Earth's intentions. You will present your defense at a tribunal aboard my flagship. You have 30 Earth days to prepare." The transmission ended. The screens went dark. Humanity sat in stunned silence. Sarah ran back to her laboratory. Her team was already there, pulling up old data files and historical records. If the aliens had been sending quantum messages, there had to be some trace, some evidence, something. Dr. James Okafor from the Linguistics Department arrived an hour later. He brought boxes of archaeological reports. "If they've been trying to contact us for 3,000 years, he said, "they might have tried other methods too. Before we had radio, before we had technology, they worked through the night." Sarah's team analyzed decades of astronomical data, looking for quantum signatures they had not known to search for. James and his researchers pored over ancient texts and archaeological findings. At 4 in the morning, Sarah found it. A quantum frequency that appeared in her data, going back years. It had always been there. She had simply never known what it was. The signal repeated in regular patterns. Every few months. Like clockwork. Invitations that humanity had never heard. James found something even more disturbing. In museums around the world, there were artifacts that had puzzled archaeologists for decades. Devices found in ancient Sumerian ruins. Strange mechanical objects discovered in Egyptian tombs. Intricate metal spheres from the Indus Valley civilization. They had been catalogued as religious items or primitive art. James brought images of these artifacts to Sarah's lab. She looked at them and felt sick. They were receivers. Quantum communication devices. Incredibly advanced technology left behind thousands of years ago. They tried to give us the tools to hear them, James said quietly. Our ancestors found them, but didn't understand. They thought they were gifts. From gods. Sarah looked at the quantum signature on her screen. We never ignored them, she whispered. We just never knew they were there. The United Earth government assembled a delegation. Ambassador James Okafor would lead it. Dr. Sarah Chen would provide technical expertise. Commander Maria Santos, the most decorated officer in the Space Navy, would provide security. They had 30 days to prepare a defense for 3,000 years of silence. Sarah spent those days building something impossible. Using the ancient artifacts and her knowledge of quantum physics, she constructed Earth's first proper quantum receiver. It was crude. It barely worked, but it could hear the galactic frequency. When she activated it for the first time, the device was immediately flooded with messages. Thousands upon thousands of them. 3 millennia of invitations, trade offers, cultural exchanges, and diplomatic requests. All of them sent to a world that could not hear. Sarah sat alone in her lab at 3 in the morning, listening to 3,000 years of one-sided conversation. Tears ran down her face. Tears ran. Tears ran. Tears ran down her face. Tears ran down her face. Tears ran down her face. Humanity had been alone in the darkness, never knowing that the entire galaxy had been trying to reach them. Above Earth, the Armada waited. In 5 days, the delegation would board the flagship. They would stand trial for a crime humanity never knew it was committing. They would have to convince 500 alien civilizations that Earth's silence had not been an insult. Sarah looked up at the dark sky and whispered to the stars, "We're sorry. We didn't know. We're here now." She just hoped it would be enough. The shuttle carrying Earth's delegation approached the flagship slowly. Commander Maria Santos sat at the controls, her jaw tight. Through the viewport, the alien ship filled their entire view. It was a city in space. Towers and spires rose from its surface. Lights glowed in patterns that hurt to look at. The ship was beautiful and terrifying. Ambassador James Okafor sat behind her, reviewing his notes one final time. Dr. Sarah Chen clutched her briefcase containing the quantum receiver. Inside that case was humanity's only hope. Proof that Earth had never heard the galaxy calling. The docking procedure was smooth. The aliens had sent detailed instructions. As they walked through the corridors of the flagship, the 3 humans stayed close together. Aliens of dozens of species passed them in the halls. Some looked almost human. Others were so strange that Sarah's mind struggled to process what her eyes saw. The tribunal chamber was enormous. It rose up like a cathedral. 47 platforms circled the room, each holding representatives from different alien civilizations. At the center was a single platform for the accused. Earth's platform. Ambassador Thelnax stood at the highest point. His voice echoed through the chamber. The tribunal will now begin. Earth stands accused of willful isolation and presumed hostile intent through 3,000 years of silent contempt. How does Earth respond? Mine. James Okafor walked to the center platform. His voice was calm and clear. Earth responds that it is innocent of these charges. We did not ignore the concordance. We never received your messages. We were technologically unable to detect quantum transmissions until 3 weeks ago. A murmur ran through the assembled aliens. One of them, a creature that looked like it was made of crystalline structures, spoke. Ignorance is not innocence. Every civilization in this chamber detected quantum frequencies within 200 years of developing basic technology. Earth has had radio for 300 years. This claim is implausible. James nodded. You are correct that it is unusual. But unusual does not mean impossible. Earth's technological development followed a different path. We focused on electromagnetic communications. Quantum mechanics came much later in our scientific progress. Another alien spoke. This one had 6 arms and skin like tree bark. The concordance left quantum receivers on Earth 4,000 years ago. They were given to your early civilizations. What happened to them? 1. OS. Sarah Chen stepped forward. She opened her briefcase and carefully lifted out the ancient Sumerian artifact she had reconstructed. This is one of those receivers. It was found in a temple in ancient Mesopotamia. For 3,000 years, it sat in museums. My ancestors thought it was a religious object. They didn't understand what it was. She activated the device. The quantum receiver began to hum. The sound filled the chamber. On screens around the room, data appeared. Years of accumulated messages, thousands of invitations that had gone unanswered because no one knew to answer them. We didn't ignore you, Sarah said. Her voice shook with emotion. We worshipped these devices. We put them in temples and tombs. We thought they were gifts from gods. We were wrong, but we were not contemptuous. We simply did not understand. A third alien spoke. This one looked almost human, except for the silver eyes that had no pupils. Let us assume your ignorance is genuine. That does not change the fact that Earth has been expanding aggressively through your local space. You build weapons. You militarize your colonies. How do we know you are not a threat? Commander Santos stepped forward now. You want to know about human weapons? I'll tell you. We build them because we are afraid. We have spent our entire history fighting each other. Wars that killed millions. Weapons that could destroy our whole world. We finally stopped fighting ourselves 20 years ago. Now we explore space carefully because we know what violence looks like. We know what we are capable of. James took over again. The concordance sees our caution as aggression. But consider this. Humanity survived 4 billion years alone. We faced ice ages, plagues, asteroid impacts. We nearly destroyed ourselves a dozen times. Without any help from the galaxy, we built civilization from nothing. We developed science and art and philosophy. We learned to work together despite our differences. Doesn't that prove we are worth keeping around? The crystalline alien spoke again. Or it proves you are dangerous. A species that survives so much hardship either becomes wise or becomes ruthless. We do not yet know which you are. Sarah activated her quantum receiver again. 3 weeks ago, we finally heard you. The moment we understood what we had been missing, we started responding. We sent messages to every invitation we had missed. 3,000 years of apologies. All at once, data flooded the screens. The tribunal watched as Earth's messages played out. Thousands of transmissions saying the same thing in different ways. We're sorry. We didn't know. We're here now. We want to join you. The chamber fell silent. The aliens conferred among themselves in languages humans could not understand. Sarah watched their body language, trying to guess what they were thinking. Some seemed sympathetic. Others looked skeptical. Many seemed simply confused. Finally, Thelnax spoke. The tribunal is divided. Your ignorance appears genuine. Your intentions seem peaceful, but you are unprecedented. Never before has a civilization remained isolated for so long without collapsing. You are either incredibly resilient or incredibly lucky. Either way, you represent an unknown factor. James felt hope rising in his chest. So what does that mean for Earth? It means we grant you provisional membership in the Concordance. You will share your technology. You will attend the meetings you missed. You will open your borders to galactic trade and diplomacy. But you will be monitored. For the next 50 years, Earth remains on probation. Any sign of hostility will result in immediate sanctions. Sarah nearly collapsed with relief. Commander Santos allowed herself a small smile. James bowed his head in gratitude. Thank you. Earth accepts these terms. We will prove ourselves worthy of this chance. Thelnax began to speak again, but he stopped. His expression changed. Around the chamber, other aliens were checking their instruments. Concern spread across the room like a wave. What's happening? James asked. Thelnax's face had gone pale. Our sensors have detected incoming vessels, multiple signatures, closing fast on the solar system. Sarah felt cold. More Concordance ships? No. Thelnax's voice was tight with fear. Virkesh. The word meant nothing to the humans. But its effect on the aliens was immediate. Panic erupted across the tribunal chamber. Aliens rushed to their stations. Alarms began to sound. Commander Santos grabbed Thelnax's arm. What are the Virkesh? The ambassador looked at her with eyes full of dread. They are the reason we are really here. The reason we brought 1,000 ships to your isolated world. We came to Earth to hide from them, and now they have found us. Through the viewport, Sarah saw the first flashes of light as ships dropped out of hyperspace. Not dozens, not hundreds, thousands. They were massive. They were alive, and they were heading straight for Earth. The tribunal was over. The trial had been decided. But none of that mattered anymore. A new threat had arrived. One that the Concordance had been fighting for 800 years. And Earth was right in the middle of it. James looked at his companions. Get us back to the shuttle. As they ran through the corridors of the flagship, alarms blaring around them, Sarah Chen realized something terrible. Earth had finally joined the galactic community. They had finally been accepted, and their first act as members would be to fight a war they knew nothing about against an enemy they had never heard of. Welcome to the galaxy, she thought bitterly. Welcome to the war. Commander Maria Santos burst into the United Earth Government emergency session. She had not slept in 30 hours. Behind her came Ambassador Okafor and Dr. Chen, looking equally exhausted. The room fell silent as they entered. We have a situation, Maria said without preamble. The Concordance has been lying to us. President Zhang leaned forward. Explain. James pulled up a holographic display. It showed the solar system with thousands of red dots approaching from deep space. These are Virkesh ships. They're a silicon-based hive intelligence. They consume entire star systems. The Concordance has been fighting them for 800 years, and they're losing. Sarah added more data to the display. The Armada that came to Earth wasn't just here for a tribunal. They came here to hide. The Virkesh have been destroying Concordance outposts across 3 sectors. The fleet needed somewhere remote to regroup. They chose our solar system because it was supposed to be empty of advanced civilization. General Rodriguez stood up. Not intentionally, Maria said. But yes, the Virkesh track quantum communications. Every message the Concordance sent to Earth for 3,000 years left a trail. When the Armada arrived here and started broadcasting, the Virkesh followed the signal. President Zhang looked at the display. How long until they arrive? 16 hours, James said quietly. Maybe less. The room erupted. Voices shouted over each other. Some demanded the Concordance leave immediately and take their war with them. Others argued for evacuation. Still, others wanted to fight. Maria slammed her hand on the table. The sound echoed through the chamber. Listen to me. We don't have time for debate. The Virkesh are coming. The Concordance fleet is trapped in our gravity well. They can't leave fast enough. And even if they could, the Virkesh would still come here. We're marked now. We're a target. So what do you suggest? The president asked. We fight, Maria said simply. We mobilize every ship we have. We work with the Concordance. And we defend our home. General Rodriguez shook his head. Commander, we have 200 ships. The Concordance has 1,000. According to your data, the Virkesh are bringing 3 full harvester fleets. That's tens of thousands of vessels. We're outgunned by a factor of 10 to 1. Yes, Maria agreed. We are. But the Concordance has been fighting this war for 8 centuries, using the same tactics. They're tired. They're scared. They're losing. We're fresh. We're angry. And we have 8,000 years of human warfare to draw from. Sarah spoke up. I've been analyzing the Virkesh ship signatures. They're biological. Grown, rather than built. That means they'll be vulnerable to different kinds of weapons than the Concordance expects. What kinds of weapons? The president asked. Maria smiled grimly. The kind the Concordance considers barbaric. Kinetic weapons. Nuclear warheads. Chemical warfare. Boarding actions. Every dirty trick humanity ever invented. Ambassador Okafor looked uncomfortable. The Concordance was horrified when they learned about our nuclear arsenals. They haven't used atomic weapons in warfare for 3,000 years. Then they forgot how effective they are, Maria said. We haven't. We remember. The vote was called. It was not unanimous, but the majority agreed. Earth would fight. Every nation would contribute ships and soldiers. The colonies would be evacuated to the outer system, and humanity would stand alongside the aliens who had come to judge them. Maria returned to the Concordance flagship with a proposal. Ambassador Thelnax listened with growing disbelief. You want to what? He asked. Use the moon as a railgun? Maria repeated. We install electromagnetic accelerators across the surface. We can launch projectiles at near relativistic speeds. The mass and velocity will punch through anything. Thelnax looked at the human woman like she had suggested setting herself on fire. That would destabilize your moon's orbit. The tidal effects on Earth would be catastrophic. Only if we use it for more than a few days, Maria said. We'll worry about fixing the tides after we win. A Concordance engineer spoke up. His species looked like insects standing upright. The energy requirements would be enormous. You would need to redirect power from your entire planetary grid. Sarah stepped forward with her calculations. We've already started. Earth is going dark in 6 hours. Every city, every home, all power redirected to the lunar installations. We can get 3 shots before the system overloads. The Concordance officers looked at each other. They were trained diplomats and scientists. They fought wars with energy shields and particle beams. They followed rules and protocols. Humans were proposing to turn their natural satellite into a weapon and plunge their homeworld into darkness to power it. You're insane, Thelnax said. Yes, Maria agreed cheerfully. That's why we might actually win. The preparations began. Human engineers worked alongside Concordance technicians. They modified weapons systems, shared tactical data, and prepared for battle. The cultural differences were stark. Concordance soldiers were professional and efficient. Human soldiers were loud, crude, and disturbingly eager for combat. Sarah spent the hours before battle studying Virkesh biology with Concordance scientists. She learned that the Virkesh were not evil. They did not hate. They simply consumed. They processed matter into more of themselves, spreading through the galaxy like a cancer. They had no concept of mercy or negotiation. They existed only to grow. How do you kill them? She asked. A concordant scientist showed her the data. Overwhelming force. They regenerate from almost any damage. You must completely destroy each ship. Even a fragment can regrow given time and resources. Sarah thought about nuclear weapons, about the heat and radiation that could sterilize anything organic. I think humans can manage that, she said. Night fell on Earth. But the lights did not come on. Cities went dark. Homes went silent. Billions of people sat in the darkness. Looking up at the sky, they could see the Concordance fleet as bright points of light. And beyond them, growing closer every hour, they could see the red glow of the Virkesh Armada. Maria stood on the bridge of the Earth Navy flagship Defiant. Around her, the human fleet assembled, 200 ships against impossible odds. She opened a channel to all vessels. This is Commander Santos. In a few hours, we're going to fight alongside aliens against an enemy we didn't know existed 2 days ago. Some of you are scared. That's good. Fear keeps you sharp. Some of you are angry. That's better. Anger keeps you fighting. But remember this. We're not just defending Earth. We're showing the galaxy what humans can do. We're showing them why we survived 4 billion years without their help. She paused. The Concordance has been fighting the Virkesh for 800 years. Today, we're going to teach them how humans fight. We're going to be loud, rude, and absolutely terrifying. We're going to make the Virkesh regret ever coming to our solar system. And when this is over, the galaxy is going to remember Earth. Across the fleet, cheers erupted. Ships moved into position. Weapons charged. The moon began to hum as massive electromagnetic coils powered up. Sarah watched from the Concordance flagship as the Virkesh entered the solar system. She had seen images and data, but nothing prepared her for the reality. The ships were alive. Organic tissue stretched over frameworks of silicon and metal. They pulsed with bioluminescence. They were beautiful in the way that deep-sea creatures are beautiful. Alien and terrifying. Thelnax stood beside her. They will attack within the hour. May your gods protect you, Dr. Chen. Sarah thought about humanity's long history. All the wars. All the suffering. All the times they had nearly destroyed themselves. We don't need gods, she said. We have each other. And that's always been enough. The Virkesh fleet spread across the asteroid belt. Thousands of harvester ships and millions of drone fighters. The Concordance formation looked tiny by comparison. The human fleet looked like a joke, but the humans were grinning as they flew toward impossible odds. Because humans had been facing impossible odds since the first human picked up a rock and decided to fight something bigger than themselves. The first shot came from the moon. A projectile the size of a building, accelerated to near light speed, crossed the distance in seconds. It hit a Virkesh harvester dead center and continued through it, leaving a tunnel a kilometer wide. The ship tried to regenerate. Then it exploded as nuclear warheads detonated inside the wound. Maria's voice came over all channels. All ships. Weapons free. Show them what humans do. The battle for Sol had begun. The space between Mars and Jupiter became hell. Energy weapons carved through the darkness. Explosions bloomed like deadly flowers. Ships died by the dozens. The Virkesh came in waves, organic vessels that moved like schools of fish. The Concordance fleet met them with disciplined formations and precise particle beam fire. Then the humans arrived, and chaos followed. Commander Santos led her squadron in a direct assault on a Virkesh harvester. The massive organic ship was the size of a city. Its surface writhed with biological weapons. The Concordance doctrine said to attack from range with energy weapons until the shields failed. Santos ignored doctrine. All fighters, follow me in. We're going down its throat. Her squadron of 20 ships dove toward the harvester's massive intake port. It was designed to swallow asteroids and process them into raw materials. The Concordance had never thought to use it as an entry point. Why would anyone fly into the mouth of the enemy? Because humans were crazy, that's why. Virkesh fighters swarmed after them. Organic drones that moved with insect-like precision. Human pilots jinked and rolled, their ships dancing through enemy fire. 3 human fighters were destroyed. The rest made it into the intake port. Inside the harvester was a nightmare landscape of pulsing tissue and flowing fluids. It was like flying through the intestines of a living creature. Because that's exactly what they were doing. "Plant your charges and get out," Santos ordered. Her pilots attached nuclear warheads to critical structural points. The Virkesh biological defenses activated too late. Antibody-like creatures tried to swarm the bombs, but the timers were already running. Santos led her squadron back out. 2 more ships were lost to defensive fire. The survivors cleared the harvester just as the nuclear charges detonated. The ship died from the inside out, blown apart by atomic fury. The Concordance observers were stunned into silence. Admiral K then of the Concordance fleet opened a channel. "Commander Santos, that was the most reckless thing I have ever witnessed. It was also brilliantly effective. Can your people do that again?" "As many times as you need," Santos replied. "We've got plenty of nukes and plenty of pilots stupid enough to fly them in." The battle spread across millions of kilometers. The Concordance fought with precision and strategy. The humans fought with fury and improvisation. When Virkesh drones overwhelmed a Concordance cruiser, human marines boarded it. They fought through corridors alongside alien allies, using shotguns and rifles against biological horrors. The Concordance had not practiced boarding actions in 3 centuries. Humans had been perfecting close-quarters combat for millennia. The Virkesh learned quickly that humans were at their most dangerous, up close. Sarah Chen watched from the flagship's observation deck. She was supposed to be analyzing Virkesh tactics, but she couldn't look away from the carnage. Humanity was revealing itself to the galaxy, not as peaceful explorers or wise philosophers. As warriors. As survivors who had learned to kill efficiently because the alternative was extinction. A junior Concordance officer approached her. His species looked like upright cats. "Dr. Chen, I don't understand. Your people fight like they're already dying. They take risks no rational being would take. Why?" Sarah thought about it. "Because we've always been dying. Every generation of humans has faced threats that should have killed us. We survived because we were willing to do whatever it took. We're not brave. We're desperate. And desperation makes us dangerous. And makes us dangerous." The Luna railgun fired again. Another relativistic projectile tore through the Virkesh fleet. This time, it hit 3 harvesters in a line, damaging all of them. Human bomber squadrons followed up, finishing what the railgun started. But the Virkesh kept coming. For every ship destroyed, 2 more took its place. The Allied fleet was being pushed back toward Earth. Casualties mounted on both sides. A quarter of the Concordance fleet was gone. 40 human ships had been destroyed. They were losing. Santos regrouped her forces near the moon. The railgun needed time to recharge. The human fleet was battered, but still fighting. She opened a channel to all ships, human and alien alike. "Listen up. We're going to try something new. Something the Concordance has never done because they're too smart for it. We're going to punch a hole straight through their fleet and go for their command ships. Every harvester we destroy makes the drones stupider. Kill enough harvesters, and the drones will lose coordination." Admiral Kathen's voice came through immediately. "Commander, that would require flying through the center of their formation. The casualties would be catastrophic." "Yes," Santos agreed. "They will. But we don't have to survive. We just have to succeed. Any Concordance ships that want to join us are welcome. The rest should cover our approach." For a long moment, there was silence. Then Kathen spoke again. "My people have been fighting the Virkesh for 800 years. We have forgotten how to take risks. You have reminded us. The Third Fleet will accompany you. Let us be crazy together. 200 ships, human and alien, formed up for the attack. They would fly directly into the teeth of the enemy fleet. Most of them would die. But maybe, just maybe, they could turn the tide. Sarah's console lit up with an alert. She had been analyzing the Virkesh communication patterns, looking for weaknesses. Now she found something. Commander Santos, I'm detecting quantum transmissions between the harvesters. They're using the same frequency the Concordance uses for their communications. Santos saw it immediately. They're tracking the Concordance by their own technology. That's how the Virkesh always find you. You're broadcasting your position constantly. Thelnax leaned over Sarah's shoulder. Can we use this? Sarah's mind raced. Quantum communication was instantaneous across any distance. If the Virkesh used it to coordinate their fleet, and if she could access that network, maybe. If I could get close enough to one of the harvesters, I could inject a signal into their quantum network. An overload. It might disrupt their coordination. Or what? Thelnax asked. Or it might kill them all at once. Quantum networks connect everything simultaneously. If I overload the system, every Virkesh ship in the network would be affected. The ambassador stared at her. That would require someone to manually input the overload code from inside a harvester, in the middle of a battle, while surrounded by Virkesh. Defenses. Yes, Sarah said quietly. It would. Santos heard the exchange over the command channel. Dr. Chen, are you sure about this? Sarah looked at the tactical display. Hundreds of ships dying. Thousands of soldiers already dead. Earth itself at risk. No, but I don't see another option. The overload code would take 5 minutes to input manually. Someone has to go in there and buy me that time. I'll do it, Santos said immediately. No, Thelnax interrupted. Commander, you are needed to lead the fleet. I will take a strike team into the harvester. We will protect Dr. Chen while she works. Sarah shook her head. Ambassador, you're the Concordance representative. Earth needs you alive for diplomatic relations, and the Concordance needs Earth alive, Thelnax replied. If we do not win this battle, there will be no diplomacy. I go. Before anyone could argue further, the Virkesh launched another wave. Millions of drones swept toward the Allied fleet. There was no more time for debate. Santos led her attack force into the heart of the enemy fleet. Behind them, the rest of the Concordance provided covering fire. Human pilots screamed battle cries as they flew. Alien warriors fought with grim determination. Ships exploded on all sides. They punched through. 30 ships made it to the harvester concentration at the fleet's center. Half of them were destroyed in seconds. The survivors kept firing, targeting the largest harvesters. Thelnax's boarding shuttle launched from the flagship. Sarah sat in the back, clutching her equipment. 6 Concordance warriors and 4 human marines made up the strike team. They flew through hell itself to reach the nearest harvester. The shuttle hit the organic hull hard, cutting through with plasma torches. The team poured into the harvester's interior. Virkesh defenders swarmed them immediately. Biological weapons spat acid. Organic drones rushed forward with blade-like appendages. The Marines opened fire with automatic weapons. The Concordance warriors used energy weapons and personal shields. They carved a path deeper into the harvester's body. 2 Concordance soldiers fell. 1 Marine died covering their advance. They reached a central chamber. Sarah set up her equipment with shaking hands. The quantum receiver connected to the Virkesh network. She began inputting the overload sequence. It would take 5 minutes. Hold this position, Thelnax ordered. The Virkesh came in waves. The defenders formed a circle around Sarah, fighting desperately. Another Marine fell. 2 more Concordance warriors died. The chamber filled with smoke and blood. Sarah's fingers flew across her keyboard. 3 minutes. Outside, the battle raged. Inside, the defenders were being overwhelmed. "Dr. Chen, you need to hurry," one of the Marines shouted. "I'm going as fast as I can. 4 minutes." Thelnax fell, wounded but still firing. The last Marine took a hit but stayed standing. The remaining Concordance warriors were exhausted. 4 minutes, 30 seconds. Sarah could hear the Virkesh breaking through. "Whatever you're doing, do it now." 5 minutes. Sarah hit the final command. The overload sequence activated. Quantum energy pulsed through the Virkesh network. Every harvester, every drone, every single ship connected to the biological network. For one moment, nothing happened. Then the Virkesh began to die. Not just in this harvester. Everywhere. The quantum overload shut down their nervous systems simultaneously. Harvesters went dark. Drones drifted. The entire fleet simply stopped. On the flagship, Sarah Chen watched the readings. Her plan had worked. She had saved the fleet. Saved Earth. But there was a problem. The quantum backlash was stronger than she had calculated. Energy was feeding back through her receiver. She tried to shut it down, but it was too late. The device began to overload. Sarah looked at her shaking hands. She understood. Someone had to be here to complete the sequence. Someone had to stay until it finished. That someone was always going to be her. She thought about the galaxy that humanity had finally joined. About the meetings they had missed. About the future they might now have. Sarah Chen smiled and closed her eyes as the quantum receiver exploded. 6 weeks after the battle, Earth looked different. The cities had their lights back, but everyone who looked up at night could see the changes. The moon hung in the sky, at a slightly different angle. The tides ran differently now. The railgun had done exactly what the Concordance predicted. But Earth was still there. Still alive. Still home. Commander Maria Santos stood in the United Earth Government Assembly Hall. She wore her dress uniform with new medals. Behind her stood Ambassador James Okafor, also decorated. Between them was an empty chair, the chair that should have held Dr. Sarah Chen. They had recovered her body from the harvester 3 days after the battle. The Virkesh ship had been dead and drifting, along with every other biological vessel in their fleet. Sarah had died instantly when the quantum receiver exploded. The energy release had been massive, but she had completed her mission first. President Zhang addressed the assembly and the billions watching around the world. Today we honor our fallen. 3,217 Earth Navy personnel died in the battle for Seoul. Dr. Sarah Chen gave her life to save not just Earth, but the entire Concordance fleet. She is our first hero of the Galactic Age. She will not be our last. The room fell silent. Outside, across Earth and the colonies, people bowed their heads. The Concordance had sent representatives to every memorial service. They were learning about human grief, about how humans honored their dead. Ambassador Thelnax spoke next. His wounds from the boarding action had healed, leaving scars that his species usually had surgically removed. He had chosen to keep them. The Concordance has fought the Virkesh for 800 years. We have lost entire worlds, trillions of lives. We had forgotten how to win. We had accepted an endless war. Then humans arrived and showed us something we had lost. The willingness to sacrifice everything for victory. He paused, looking at the empty chair. Dr. Chen's sacrifice will be remembered throughout the galaxy. The Concordance has established a new scientific award in her name. It will be given annually to those who take great risks in pursuit of knowledge. The first recipient is Dr. Sarah Chen. Posthumously. Maria stepped forward when it was her turn to speak. Her voice was rough. Sarah had been her friend. They had joked together during the long weeks of preparation. Now, Sarah was gone. Dr. Chen once told me that humans aren't brave. She said we're desperate. She was wrong. We're both. We're desperate enough to try impossible things, and brave enough to see them through even when we know the cost. The memorial service ended. But the work continued. Earth had survived the Virkesh attack, but barely. 60% of the fleet was gone. Mars' colony had suffered damage when debris from destroyed ships rained down. The orbital stations needed rebuilding. Earth itself faced decades of work repairing the environmental damage from the lunar railgun. But they had won. And winning changed everything. Ambassador Thelnax met with the United Earth government in closed session. What he said there was recorded for history. The Concordance owes Earth a debt we can never fully repay. Your people saved our fleet. You showed us new ways of fighting. You reminded us that sometimes survival requires sacrifice. President Zhang nodded. You mentioned the Concordance has been losing this war. How badly? Thelnax's expression was grim. Very badly. The Virkesh have consumed 17 Concordance worlds in the last century. We have been in retreat for 50 years. Our strategy has been defensive consolidation. We protect what we can and abandon what we cannot. We have been slowly dying. General Rodriguez leaned forward. And now? Now we have hope, Thelnax said simply. The quantum overload tactic worked because the Virkesh never expected anyone to weaponize their own communication network. They will adapt. They will defend against it. But for the first time in centuries, we hurt them badly. We destroyed 3 entire harvester fleets. That represents decades of Virkesh growth. We bought time. Oh, how much time? President Zhang asked. 5 years. Maybe 10. Then they will return. Stronger and better prepared. Unless we change how we fight. Unless we learn from humanity. James Okafor spoke carefully. Ambassador, what exactly is the Concordance proposing? Full membership for Earth, not provisional, not monitored. Full and immediate membership with all rights and responsibilities. A seat on the Security Council. Access to all Concordance technology. Joint military training programs. And a formal request that Earth leads the new Virkesh task force. The room erupted. A seat on the Security Council usually took centuries to earn. Leading a military task force was an honor reserved for the oldest member species. Earth had been part of the Concordance for 6 weeks. Why us? Maria asked. Thelnax looked at her steadily. Because you know how to win. The Concordance has fought honorably and lost repeatedly. You fought dirty and won. Our species have grown comfortable. We avoid risks. We prefer negotiation to conflict. These are good qualities for maintaining peace, but terrible qualities for winning a war. Humans are warriors. You have spent your entire history perfecting the art of killing. Now the galaxy needs that expertise. President Zhang studied the alien ambassador. You're asking us to teach the galaxy how to make war. Yes. And in exchange, we will teach you everything else. Science. Medicine. Art. Philosophy. Faster-than-light travel that doesn't strain your ship's engines. Power generation that doesn't pollute your world. We will help Earth rebuild from the battle damage. We will share our accumulated knowledge from 500 civilizations. And the cost? The President asked. Your soldiers, your ships, your tactical knowledge. You will fight alongside us against the Virkesh. You will share your weapons technology. You will train Concordance military forces in human combat doctrine. We need your edge, your willingness to do whatever it takes. The United Earth government debated for 3 days. The Concordance offer was generous. Too generous. Some suspected a trap. Others worried about humanity being used as cannon fodder for alien wars. Many simply feared how Earth would change. But in the end, the vote passed. Earth would accept full membership. They would join the fight against the Virkesh. They would become part of something larger than themselves. Maria Santos was promoted to admiral and given command of the Joint Task Force Valiant. Her fleet would be the first to combine human and Concordance vessels into a single fighting force. She chose the name herself, Valiant. Because that's what Sarah had been. The technology transfer began immediately. Concordance scientists arrived on Earth by the thousands. Human researchers traveled to alien worlds. The exchange was overwhelming. Humanity learned about quantum computing, biological engineering, and antimatter containment. The Concordance learned about guerrilla tactics, chemical weapons, and the human concept of acceptable losses. The cultural differences created friction. Concordance officers were horrified by human casualty estimates. "You expect to lose 30% of your forces in this engagement?" one asked Admiral Santos during a training exercise. "If we accomplish the objective?" "Yes," Santos replied. "The Concordance retreats when casualties reach 5%. That's why you keep losing. Sometimes, you have to be willing to bleed. That's barbaric. That's survival. Ask the Virkesh which they prefer. On the moon, where Dr. Sarah Chen had died saving the fleet, humanity built a monument. It was a simple structure. A quantum beacon that broadcast continuously into space on all frequencies. The message was encoded in every known galactic language, plus several that weren't officially recognized yet. The message said, "Here lies Dr. Sarah Chen, of Earth. She died so that others might hear. She gave her life so that humanity could finally attend the meetings we missed. We are here now. We are listening. We will never miss another meeting." The beacon transmitted constantly. Every ship passing through the Sol system heard it. Every Concordance world received it. It became known as Chen's Beacon, a reminder of what humanity had sacrificed to join the galaxy. Admiral Santos visited the beacon often. She would stand on the lunar surface in her pressure suit, looking up at Earth. The planet was still beautiful despite the scars. The tides were wrong. The climate was shifting. But humanity was adapting. They always did. James Okafor became Earth's first permanent representative to the Concordance Council. He attended every meeting. He read every report. He made sure Earth's voice was heard, because 3,000 years of silence had been enough. At the first meeting he attended, James stood before the assembled civilizations and delivered a speech that would be remembered for generations. For 3,000 years, Earth was silent. You thought we were contemptuous. You thought we were hostile. You were wrong. We were alone. We were struggling. We were learning how to survive without you. Now we are here. Now we understand what we missed. And I promise you this: Earth will never be silent again. The applause was hesitant at first. Then it grew. 500 civilizations welcoming the newcomers. The species that had arrived late and bloody, but unbowed. After the meeting, a Concordance historian approached James. Her species looked like living crystals. "Ambassador Okafor, I must ask, what do you think would have happened if Earth had received those original quantum receivers? If you had joined us 3,000 years ago?" James thought about it. About human history. About all the wars and struggles. About how humanity had been forged in conflict and isolation. "I think we would have been different. Softer. Less prepared for what came. Maybe we needed those 3,000 years alone. Maybe we needed to learn how to fight before we learned how to make peace." The historian crystalline features shifted in what might have been a smile. "Perhaps the galaxy needed you to miss those meetings, so you would arrive exactly when we needed you most." "Maybe," James agreed. "Or maybe the universe just has terrible timing." 6 months after the battle, Admiral Santos led Joint Task Force Valiant on its first mission. They jumped into a system where Virkesh scouts had been spotted. The fleet was mixed. Human destroyers flew alongside Concordance cruisers. Marines from 12 different species trained together. Tactics from 800 years of Concordance doctrine merged with 8,000 years of human warfare. The Virkesh scouts never had a chance. The attack was swift, brutal, and effective. No ships were lost. All objectives achieved. The Virkesh presence in the system was eliminated. Santos filed her report with Concordance Command. At the end, she added a personal note. "The galaxy spent 800 years losing to the Virkesh, Because you fought the war they expected. Humanity spent 4 billion years learning to survive by fighting wars nobody expected. We're not better than you. We're just meaner. And sometimes, mean wins. Back on Earth, people looked up at the stars with different eyes. The galaxy was no longer a mystery. It was home. A larger, stranger home than they had imagined. But home nonetheless. The meetings they had missed were over. The war they never asked for was beginning. Humanity had finally arrived at the galactic table. They had paid the price of admission in blood and sacrifice. They had proven themselves worthy. Now, they would prove themselves valuable. Chen's beacon continued to broadcast its message into the void. A promise and a warning. Humanity was here. They were listening. They would fight. And they would never, ever, miss another meeting. In deep space, beyond Concordance territory, something ancient stirred. It had been watching, waiting. The quantum signals from the battle for Sol had reached far beyond what anyone knew. Other ears had been listening. Other eyes had been watching. Humanity thought they had joined the galaxy. They thought they understood their place in the cosmos. They were wrong. The Concordance was just the beginning. The Virkesh were just the first test. Something older was coming. Something that had been waiting for humanity to finally announce itself. Waiting for them to prove they could survive. Waiting for them to earn the right to face what came next. But that was a problem for another day. For now, humanity had won. They had survived. They had proven themselves. Admiral Santos looked at the tactical display showing Concordance and human ships flying together. She thought about Sarah Chen. About all the people who died defending Earth. "We did it," she whispered. "We're here. We're part of something bigger. I hope we're ready for what comes next." Behind her, the communications officer called out. "Admiral, we're receiving new orders from Concordance Command. They want Task Force Valiant to investigate an anomaly in the Kepler sector. Unknown signals. Possible Virkesh activity." Santos smiled. Back to work. Back to the fight. Humanity's vacation was over. The real war was just beginning. "Set course," she ordered. "Let's go remind the Virkesh why they should have left Earth alone." The fleet jumped to hyperspace. Earth's ships carrying Earth's warriors to fight alongside 500 alien civilizations. The newcomers who missed every meeting had finally arrived, and the galaxy would never be the same.